Tucker Carlson and Darryl Cooper. He said, we went to war with Iraq for oil. It just wasn't for U.S. or for us. I don't know which one it is. For the U.S., which it wasn't. It wasn't for us. It seems like all our policies have to be filtered through Israel. It seems like everything we do is, especially when it pertains to war, is to benefit Israel. Why is that? Why is that? And why you get called anti-Semitic when you call it out? How come it gets, why come? Y'all know I'm from the country. Why come? How come it's, you get called all types of names and stuff when you point out facts like this? It's just, it's wrong. And it is a way to stifle dissent. They don't want you to be able to criticize Israel. They don't want you to know the truth about what's going on. The same thing with the whole Epstein stuff. It's to benefit Israel, it seems like. So we're going to play the clip. We're going to hear what Tucker Carlson and Cooper has to say about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, let's get right to the clip. Here we go.
Which was to put his very best guys, most loyal guys from this neoconservative faction in all the most important places in the government to push us into that war.
And the purpose of that war was to neutralize Iran, actually.
That's right.
Again, I just want to ask you to pause. So there was a promise from the neocons or parts of the U.S. government that there would be an oil pipeline after Saddam built from Mosul, Kirkuk, northern Iraq to the port of Haifa in Israel?
Right. And this had been a pipeline under the British in the 1920s, and they wanted to reopen it or rebuild the thing. And part of the deal was that when, Israel stayed friends with Iran, as we established all the way through the 1980s, and they had a secret pipeline at the port of Aqaba, which is, they call it the Sinai Peninsula because it sticks out into the Red Sea there. Well, the right side of the Sinai, that's Aqaba, is that port there. And the Iranians had a secret pipeline that was, I guess, was operated by Mark Rich. I don't know exactly who originally had built it.
Mark Rich,
Are
you making this up?
Same guy. And so there was this secret oil pipeline where the Iranians would drive their tankers up and unload oil and ship it to Israel. But then when Rabin turned on Iran in 93, the Iranians cut that oil supply off. So like in a large sense, America's Iraq War II was part of that was so that they could rebuild this pipeline to make up for that loss. In fact, when Donald Rumsfeld, the famous meeting of Donald Rumsfeld with the video and the still shot of him shaking hands with Saddam Hussein when he was Reagan's special emissary in 1983, a huge part of that meeting was him badgering Hussein to build a pipeline to the port of Aqaba that would then have a separate spur that would go directly to Israel.
So when people say it was a war for oil, there's some truth in that, but it wasn't oil for us.
That's right. And
is this real?
Yeah. And
But why do we care how much Israel pays for oil? Like, what does that have to do with us?
Oh, Tucker, I don't care.
Because the lobbyists, the Israeli lobbyists, the ones that really is running our government care. That's why. All roads leads to Israel for some reason.
But David Wormser and them are essentially Likud guys. I mean, Douglas Feist's law partner, Mark Zell, who's a riot if you follow him on Twitter these days, he represents settlers on the West Bank. I mean, these guys are
but what does
very
this have
close
to do with the United States?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was a sincere question. I guess there's no answer.
Right.
Nothing.
That's it. Just the lobby and their control inside America. So
there you go.
When I wrote that book, a guy named Gary Vogler contacted me, and he was the American viceroy over Iraqi oil during that war. And he wrote a review of Enough Already on Amazon that says, hey, let me tell you, this is the only book that gets it right. This is what really happened and what that war was really about. How do I know? Because I was the oil minister. I was in charge. And I published his book at the Libertarian Institute. We published his book. It's called Israel, Winner of the 2003 Iraq Oil War by Gary Vogler, where he explains that this is exactly right and how Michael Maloof, the same guy from the Policy Counterterrorism Evaluation Group, was on the phone with him, bugging him about the pipeline. And he talks all about it. And I wouldn't want to go into too much detail about what he explains in there, how it all worked. But he was like front row to seeing the role that the promises of that pipeline played in the neocons' thinking. And Netanyahu bought it as well. And Netanyahu mentioned it in a speech that he gave, I believe, in England. Or was it at Jinsa? No, it was Chalabi gave a speech at Jinsa. But Netanyahu mentioned it, I believe, in England one time that, they promised they're going to rebuild the oil pipeline to Haifa. So this was a huge part of the neocons.
I remember scoffing at the idea it was a war for oil because I couldn't see how Iraqi oil would benefit the United States.
Right.
So I was like, how could it be a war for oil? And on the left was all war for oil, no blood for oil, no blood for oil. But I guess I'm not deranged enough even to imagine it could be a war for oil for somebody else.
Right. I know.
Wow.
It's completely.
There you have it. There you have it. So the whole reason why we went into Iraq and they made the whole weapons of mass destruction up and babies being killed in incubators and all these other things, made up stuff they were saying, is to create a pipeline, an oil pipeline for Israel. How many wars have we started? We've been a part of because of Israel. This has to stop. This has to stop. We're going to continue to fight Israel's wars to benefit them while American soldiers are dying and we have to put out more money and pay more taxes to fund these things. It has to stop. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.